I bought a property in the Kurheol Realm, and what they do for you is that they give you a really interesting engine for just 200 yen that involves a 2 crit attacker, a 15k guy, and a Soul Blast 1 top 5 for free. Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Mr. here. Today I am back to cover a very different video. Today I want to talk about these 3 cards from DBT11. This is of course the Kurheol Realm series of cards that came from Dark States back when Draconic Kaiser Vermilion and Blonde Ezel were first introduced, because that set just has so many things to offer, right? So today I want to talk about these guys. One, mostly because I happened to test them recently and I thought they were still pretty interesting today. Two is that I received a request for them. One of my friends asked me to do a video on this, so I said, okay, sure. I don't see why not. So again, if there's any topic or any deck you'd like me to talk about, and if I just happen to have the money to cover it, let me know in the comment section below. Yeah, that's pretty much about all I can say about that. Today I wanted to talk about these 3, like I said, because I managed at the time to test it. And I think it's pretty interesting given Dark State's deck building, because Dark State's deck building is very warped to a lot of people. It's either you stuff it with all your in-archetype or you stuff it with all the expensive generics, and you just pray it works, right? But I found these guys really interesting, not just because they are all common rarities, surprisingly. They have a very interesting resource loop and offer decks something that I don't think other Dark States packages even have. Although they're not really good, and again I'll explain later as the video goes on. But I think it was worth exploring them pretty well because it does give you an alternate way to use your rearguard spaces pretty well. And that's mainly why I wanted to talk about these guys. So first and foremost, we have to start by talking about what each of them do. The grade 1, of which you play 4 of everything here, by the way, in case that's not very clear to you. But we'll start off with the smallest one. The grade 1 is this little bugger. His name is Tiny Devil of the Kurheol Realm. When placed on the rearguard circle, from anywhere, so you can superior call him, Soul Blast 1, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose up to 1 card with the keyword, which is Kurheol Realm. From among them, add it to your hand and shuffle the deck. Now, in the Japanese, it's actually known as Swift Hulk. At least that was the original translation that we got. But in English, they changed it completely to Kurheol Realm. Kurheol Realm. I'm not very good at pronouncing. If someone else can help me, I'll really appreciate it. But yeah, that's what this is supposed to be for. This primarily is their searcher. So you just call this on turn 1, so plus 1 top 5 and a card to your hand, including itself as a possibility. This is, of course, a technical +1, because you do add a card from your deck to your hand. Although it's relatively limited though, right now you do have up to 12 targets, or technically 11. You have up to 11 targets for your Tiny Devil to search, which I thought is still pretty consistent enough. It's not that bad. If they do eventually add more cards to this archetype, the Kurheol Realm, I think it will be pretty interesting. I don't know if they will, but at least for the Tiny Devil, he's definitely the most simplest one to understand. He's just a top 5 searcher. When they add more cards to this, if they even do, I think it will be pretty fun. The grade 2 is the Meta Knight spin-off or rip-off. This is the Devil Knight of Kurheol Realm. Yeah, you can clearly tell this is based on Meta Knight. If you guys play Super Smash Brothers, or like if you know the Kirby franchise, that's basically what this is supposed to reference to. It has 2 skills on the rearguard circle front row. When this unit is rested for the ability of the Battling Rogue of the Kurheol Realm, you can counterblast 1 and stand this unit. So by itself, you don't really use this counterblast skill, only if you already have this guy on the field. This guy requires this guy on the field. So I'll explain it later on how it works, but just keep in mind that's what this skill is for. But the more interesting part is, when this unit stands by a card's ability, this unit gains 5,000 power until the end of your turn. Now, this skill is generic. It's just whenever this unit is stood, it gains 5,000 power. So nobody told me Dark States printed a Mecha Battler Sazanda. Like, I was not informed at all. Kirani did not give me a call about that. That's quite disappointing. I thought we had something going on. But getting 5k for free just by standing during your battle phase, or by card's ability more specifically, is pretty cool. I don't think Dark States has a Victor style deck, but if they ever do, this is worth looking into again, because this is literally just a Sazanda clone. I don't know why no one has talked about it. I'm pretty sure it's because it's not very relevant, but having skills like this with no restriction is worth keeping an eye on. You know, if they ever do a restand rearguards deck for Dark States, this is definitely a card you can look into. Last but not least is the big guy, is this guy. It's the Battling Rogue of the Kurheol Realm. If you've seen any of these cards in your lifetime, chances are it's this one, because he's the one that really puts the fangs in the archetype. When his unit attacks when boosted by the Tiny Devil of the Kurheol Realm, you can rest a Dark Knight of the Kurheol Realm anywhere on your rearguard circles. You can soul charge 1, and this unit gains 10,000 power and +1 critical until the end of that battle. Yeah, you heard me right. 10,000 power and +1 critical. That's really good. The problem, of course, is that this one is only for the battle. It's not like Dark Knight, where Dark Knight can keep it for the whole turn. He's 5k. But to be fair, if you had a rearguard with 23k to crit, you're pretty much just playing Blankmire, right? Blankmire already does that with Zamu. But this is generic. All these cards have 0 lock on your Vanguard's name at all. They work with themselves, but you don't even need to check what your Vanguard or deck is. You can play this in anything. So, the real question is, what is the deck applications that this is for? What are you supposed to do with these cards, right? What do all of them do? When you read a package like this with a Searcher, a Restand Target, and of course your main Beatstick, you can play them in decks that don't really need specific rearguards. I think that's the number one hint here. Because, as you can tell, you need all 3 of them on the board at any point in time. You don't really have much space for non-members of the Kurheol Realm. So, your first few thoughts may be stuff like Oscillarjess. Oscillarjess is definitely an option I've tried. I think it's possible. Of course, Chronojet is always an option. Chronojet is definitely the first one who adopted the Kurheol Realm cards because, Chronojet can do anything. Links in the description below for the Chronojet video, because I know nobody actually watched that. So, there you go. I'm just going to link that there. And, another option is any other Dark States deck that doesn't really have a fully fleshed out rearguard cast. Fafnir is another option that I can think of. So, again, with all these in mind, these are just 3 examples. There's definitely a lot of future possibilities. There may be possibilities I haven't looked over. Maybe another Dark States deck I haven't mentioned can use these guys. It would be very interesting to see. But now let's ask the real question, which is, what exactly does this engine do, right? So you've played all of this together. How exactly does the game plan work out? Well, so you start off your turn 1, right? So let's say you're on a turn 1 Vanguard, and now you can just call one of this Tiny Devils, right? So Tiny Devil is definitely one of your main searchers, your main mulligans in this deck, because, it is your searcher for the deck. You pay a cost of Soul +1. You look at the top 5 cards in your deck, and you can add any one from the archetype. You can add another Tiny Devil if you want to. You can add another guy that you can consider, so maybe either, Dark Knight, or you can add a Battling Rogue, and either of those options would be completely okay. Even as you reach turn 2, you will still have your Tiny Devils on the field. You can also start to call your Devil Knights, especially if your opponents don't know what these cards do. They're less likely to attack into it, assuming they watch this video. But if not, you can already start to either threaten for an 18k column, or you can just have it for a tri-lane. Either option is completely okay, right? And then moving on to your turn 3, you can now have your full board. As long as you have, for example, a Tiny Devil. Here, the Battling Rogue needs to be in the same column as the Tiny Devil. You have one of your Dark Knights, and you can generally do it like this. You can attack with this, supported by this. You rest this guy, right? And then afterwards, you pay his skill, you rest this, he gets another 10,000 power. I actually have these somehow, so you can get 10,000 power. And then to really rub some salt in the wounds, you even get a +1 critical, right? It's pretty cute. And then as well, this guy, you pay 1 counter blast, you stand him, and he gains 5,000 power. So that's already one application for that, but you can even go even further, right? You can just put this guy to the back row, right? You don't even have to have him on the front row. He can stand himself for 1 counter blast, but if you're being counter blast denied, you can just keep him to the back row here, or even here for that matter, and then just employ another rear guard to your front row as per normal. So, for example, let's say, I don't know, literally anything is fine. It could be another copy of this guy if you just want more sheer power, but it could be really any card. Attack with this is your normal 13k attacker. Attack with this guy, supported by this guy. And then after that, you pay his skill, you can get a free soul charge 1, give your unit critical +1, and additional 10,000 power, and all you do is need to rest the back row Dark Knight. The Devil Knight just needs to be on the field, he doesn't have to be in front. So with this being out of the way, as long as you reserve one of your back row slots for the Devil Knight, you can maintain a 31k column with 2 crits for free, right? And then your other column can literally be anything else. If you have another powerful card in your deck, you can just play another rearguard, anything, Glimmer Breath, right? You can name it. The possibilities are literally endless for you. And that is how I'm going to wrap up this little video on the Kurheol Realm. I think that this is a pretty interesting package, but there is some flaws to this. The obvious flaw is that, there is really only one way to plus, and that is through the Tiny Devil. If you just don't open the Tiny Devil and don't make it your Hard Mulligan party, you are more likely than not just going to lose the game 100%, because you're not only needing the Tiny Devil to be the booster for the Battling Rogue, you also need a way to actually search your other pieces as well. Of course, the problem with Battling Rogue and Dark Knight is pretty simple, is that they are relatively self-contained cards. There is no way for them to actually help you plus or build your boards for you alongside Tiny Devil. That being said though, I don't think this output is stuff to be scoffed at. If you notice, Dark Knight, of course, as I mentioned before, is generic. This guy is also generic in terms of the power and the crit, and you can get pretty decent numbers against a turn 2 Vanguard, mind you. And that's all still pretty threatening, right? I wouldn't sleep on a 31k 2 crit column that you built relatively effortlessly. That being said, I think the Kurheol Realm is definitely really good if you have a deck that pluses a lot. It's clear that these guys have a lot of firepower, but not much advantage gameplay. So if you have a deck that gives you quite a fair bit of advantage, for example, Chronojet, I think it's definitely possible to play this in such a deck, because if the rest of your deck can draw into the pieces, call these guys out. For rear guards, right, they're pretty impressive. 31k 2 crit column, a minimum 15k attacker plus 8 is 23, or if you just have other rear guards to throw, say, a 53k Glimmer Breath, that's also completely fine as well. But again, this is just something interesting I wanted to talk about, just because one, I finally had these cards and I could test them myself. Of course, I'm not saying these are, meta warping or, oh, this will destroy Rezile for sure. But, this is definitely fun. They're cheap is another thing, right? It only cost me like 20 yen per card. Like, if you are the kind of person who gets really interested in deck building, if you like these kind of fun ideas, I think this is definitely worth it in my honest opinion. But, of course, like I said, just don't expect to kill Rezile or worse, Levidras. DZBTO7, why did you give Levidras a searcher? Why, God, why? Well, but that's pretty much all that's going to come from me. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you all next time. Again, just let me know in the comment section below if you have anything you're interested in seeing. I'll cover it if I can. I don't know when this video is coming out. I recorded this quite early last year, but there's a chance this comes out later than I think. But I'm going to pray that, it works relatively in my favor for the time schedule. I'm not sure if my DZBTO7 videos are out at this point in time. We'll just have to see. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Take care.